Hello, everybody who's attending today. It's a little awkward that I can't see the class I'm teaching to or see the folks I'm speaking to, but I hope to add value to your day and to help you navigate these really unprecedented times. So the title of this webinar is Leading During Uncertain Times. And there we go. Okay, let me get to the first slide. So Natalie gave you a little bit of information about who I am, but I am the founder of Lion Leadership and the principal consultant. Lion Leadership is a consortium of consultants, coaches, and facilitators dedicated to helping businesses get ready for scale or ready for what's next. So scale or shrink, we tend to the people side of business. And through that, we offer in-house management seminars and consulting services and executive coaching services. But the current issue, the issue at hand, is that every business who was starting, scaling, expecting a great second quarter has hit a big brick wall, or at least what feels like a brick wall. Now, companies who planned for such things are ready for this, but companies that were new, growing, scaling, just getting their train on the track, this can feel like the world is crashing down. So that's what I want to speak to everyone today about, is how to lead during these times in a way that's healthy for yourself and for your organization. So in order to lead well, there are four aspects that we should all be considering and considering strongly. One is strategy, two is triggers, three is mindsets, and four is action. So throughout this presentation, I'm going to walk through these four topics in hopes that it gives you a new way to frame up the situation in your mind and a new lens to look at your own leadership style through. Let me first start with strategy. Companies that have a clearly defined what, how, and why statement are going to be more successful during these times than companies who don't. And what I find with my clients is that, in the past, this is mission, vision, values, right? But more modern approach to that is the what, how, why of the company. Companies who have this intact and who are driving it through their company right now are doing better than companies who aren't. So what I find, clients tend to come to me when they've hit a brick wall or they've kind of turned into a hot mess and they need to backtrack and get some things in place so that they can move forward with confidence. So if that is describing your company or a client that you're serving, let me take a little bit of time to unpack what I mean by this. The example I have here is actually from Lion Leadership. Our what is we prepare growing and creative companies for scale. How? By getting people and processes ready for what's next. Why? Because making money is fun and losing money is not. And here you see our values: hard work, having fun, learning something new every day. Now, boiling down what we do to these four bullet points is a real challenge. But going through this exercise, making sure your company has these four bullet points is critical. And it defines how you're going to navigate uncertain times and rocky times. So if this is an exercise that you haven't done yet for your company or for your clients, this is something, it would have been great if it had been done earlier, and it would be great if you do it later, but it's important to do it now if it doesn't exist. And when you have this, the power behind it is you can share it visually. So this is how our company shares our what, how, why visually, and how we share our values. These are Instagram posts, but you can see a little bit of our personality through it. And that's important for companies to have personality. If they don't have personality, then you don't have a company. And companies with strong personalities are the ones that are going to persevere. We talk about building culture and having cultures that win and having cultures that, can navigate change and be nimble enough to succeed. This is the most basic building block of company culture, is your what, how, why. Again, we used to say mission, vision, values. I think now it makes a lot more sense to say what, how, why. And if you can do that, even if you do that exercise today, it's going to help you tomorrow. So for companies who do this, you want to drive it down. It should dictate everything that you're doing. It should drive the type of agendas you have. It should drive the style of meetings you have. It should drive the cadence of meetings. It should be infused through the employee life cycle. It should drive all of your recruiting efforts, all of your interviewing efforts, your hiring, your onboarding, your training, and it should certainly drive your budget and how you report success for the company, each quarter. Now, in most strategic plans, we have our what, how, why, we have our values, and we also have strategic goals. Right now, with strategic plans and strategic goals, most companies' strategic goals have gone out the window because this is just an unprecedented change in the workplace and something that no one really saw coming or expected. So our strategic goals either have been put on hold or they've changed. And that's fine, but the what, how, why, and values of your company don't change. The more you can infuse them throughout all of your processes in your business, the more solid and strong and able to navigate change your company will be. So let me give you a few examples. One here at Lion Leadership, the way we start our meetings is we ask everybody, what have you done this week to help a company scale? And that reminds everybody that's what we're here to do, right? What have you done this week that have gotten people and processes ready for what's next? We ask during every meeting, what have you learned this week? What have you done for fun this week? What was the hardest project you tackled this week? And it reminds our core group that is what we're about and that is what we do. For other companies, knowing exactly the what, how, why will dictate how you hire. You need people who are bought into your what, how, why. And if you hire people without being able to tell them why you do what you do, or clearly explain what it is you do, then the question becomes, what are you hiring them for? There's nothing for that employee to lock into. Now, businesses, I like to think of businesses and organizations as groups, right? A group is different than 10 people standing in a room. A group is 10 people standing in a room that are connected together through something that's common. And the what, how, why of the company dictates their commonalities. So the what, how, why should drive all of your processes, dictate how you approach clients, dictate what products you're developing, dictate how you're engaging in the sales, your client relations. It should also dictate your performance management. And this is something that is especially critical right now. Right now, we're thinking, oh gosh, we might have to cut people. We're going to have to lay people off. How are we going to manage performance? How are we going to manage expectations? And for companies who have this right, leaders are able to say, this is what we do. This is how we do it. This is why we do it. People who are not fitting that mold are going to be the people we let go first. And for people who step up in those capacities, those are going to be the people who stay. I have an example here of a company, W&A Engineering. They're a client. They had recently established their what, how, why. What they do, they build communities. How they do that is through civil engineering, surveying, landscape architecture, traffic engineering, and economic development. Why is because they think that their clients and their employees and everybody in the community should live in the best designed community possible so that they can thrive. So driving that through their organization, everybody knows that. It's in their job description. That's how they structure their meetings. That's how they structure their performance management process. And driving it even further today, they for all their employees that then went remote and all their employees that had children at home, they sent to the children these building blocks with a note that says, we build communities. And so the families then had their children make these little projects, right? They're building something and they're sharing it. And so now the families that are working remotely have a community. It's almost a competition or show and tell of what their children are doing. And I thought that was a really good example of taking out why and driving it through every tributary of the organization. It's these sorts of things that build stories and memories and emotion that binds a group together. And groups that are binded together through these, collective memories and these emotions are stronger than people who don't. And those are the people who have the staying power to get to the next, to quarter three, quarter four, and into next year. So as a leader, this is something that we need to be thinking about. We need to be thinking about strategy, and not just strategic goals, but the core of your business strategy, the core of your organization. Because without it, you're more likely to, drift in ways that are not good. And you're more likely to be less nimble in ways that can impact, of course, your bottom line and ultimately your survival. So leading well today means digging into your strategy and driving it hard throughout every aspect of your organization. Now, let me take a minute to talk about triggers. If you're going to lead well today, you need to be mindful of triggers, because this is a stressful time and you need to know what stresses you out, and you need to know what stresses out the people around you, and you need to know how people behave when they're triggered so that you don't take things personally and conflict doesn't erupt or get to a level where it can't come back down. So the way that we approach triggers in different personalities here at Lion Leadership is we lean on personality assessments. Now, many of you guys listening out there have probably taken a lot of different personality assessments. There's Strengths Finder, there's the Myers-Briggs, there's the Enneagram, there's the DISC, there's the Hogan. I'm certified in the Brickman, and that I'm going to talk about that a little bit here. But what's special about that assessment is it clearly identifies the type of person you are and how other people see you, which is really helpful if you're not very self-aware to understand how people see you. And it also tells you what is going to stress you out and exactly how you're going to behave when you're stressed out. So this is really helpful information, and it's something we all need to know right now when we're facing crisis, because it's a stressful time. So according to the Brickman, like a lot of other personality assessments, they say there are basically 4 types of people, right? And the language of Brickman, you're red, you're green, you're blue, or you're yellow. Let me take a minute to unpack what each of those colors stand for and allow you to self-identify what category you fall into, okay? Red is the Brickman color for people who prefer to make quick decisions and get results. They're direct, they're action-oriented, they give full attention to tasks at hand, they enjoy end products that they can see and feel. I always know when I'm coaching a red client because they are so busy. I hear them on the phone getting into their car or walking down the hallway, getting into an elevator. They're on to the next thing already. They are the goers and the doers. The good thing about reds is reds get things done. They have a ticker tape going around in their head of to-dos, and they get a lot of pleasure from checking those things off. So on a good day, a red is someone who's going to get things done for you. On a bad day, red is going to throw an elbow to get things done. And on a bad day, if a red asks you to do something and you don't do it right away, they're going to knock on your door and ask why you haven't done it. So those are the reds. The yellows, according to Brickman, are the people who love working with processes and details, definitions and rules. They are very careful and calculated. They like systematic procedures. These are the accountants, the lawyers, the human resource professionals, the administrative assistants of the world. The good thing about a yellow is yellows keep us legal, right? And they keep us in compliance, and they keep us following procedures so that things are fair. The bad thing, about a yellow is they can be a real stick in the mud. If you don't fill out the paperwork correctly, they're going to knock on your door. If you cut a corner to get something done and didn't follow the exact process, they're going to knock on your door and make you aware of that. So you can see how reds and yellows might there might be some tension there because reds want to get things done and yellows want you to follow the process. Now, moving to the blue, according to Brickman, is the idea person. These people are creative. They're long-range planners. They enjoy abstract thinking and investigating all possible solutions. They like creative ways to solve problems, and they like to think about them. They like to think about them for a very long time. The good thing about a blue is they're going to come up with the best ideas and the most innovative ideas. The bad thing about a blue is they sometimes can live in the world of abstraction. I can always tell a blue in a meeting because they're the people who, this isn't moving that much. They don't talk a lot in meetings, but this is moving. Their minds are moving very quickly. So again, on a good day, a blue is going to come up with great ideas. They're going to think about things through and through. On a bad day, a blue is going to live in their mind and not get things done as quickly as reds would like. And they might not get things done the way yellows would like because probably they've thought of a new process that would be better. Also, blues, if you ask a blue for their opinion and they give it to you and you don't take it, they get pretty mad and they might disengage. So finally is the green. The green, according to Brickman, are the communicators of the world. These are the people whose mouths are moving, like the teachers, the mentors, the pastors, the inspirational leaders, the charismatic folk of the world, the people who are shaking hands and kissing babies and making friends. These are the socialites. The good thing about a green is they can get a lot of people on board with a common idea, and they can inspire people to action. The bad thing about a green is they want you to pick up what they're laying down. They want you to believe in the vision they've cast, and they want you to go along with what they're saying. So if you disagree with a green, they'll find another way to convince you to see it from their point of view. So on a good day, they're inspiring. On a bad day, they can be manipulative because they want everyone to see things their way. And if you don't, at the end of the day, if you don't agree with the green and you don't go along with the vision they're casting, you're dead to them. They'll move on and find someone else who will listen. So you can see here, this is what we call the Brickman Map. You can see the red, yellow, blue, and green. You can see that there are different shades to the colors because we might be a strong red and we might be a strong blue, or we might be a soft red and a soft blue, and Brickman takes that into consideration. Here on the Brickman Map, there's a diamond in the green. What this would indicate to you is, if you were getting this report and you would say, okay, people see me as a communicator. That's good to know. When I took the Brickman for the first time, I was shocked because my diamond was a green, but I never considered myself a communicator. I thought I was a thinker. I thought I was a blue. So it was enlightening even to someone like myself who considered myself pretty self-aware. Let me take a minute, and Natalie, if you don't mind, I'm curious to know if anybody can self-identify, if there's a way to figure out how many reds are listening or how many yellows are listening.
Yeah, if people want to just chime in on the chat function down at the bottom of the screen, then they can just contribute down there. Oh, we already have it lighting up. We have one green. So yeah, if y'all just want to contribute down there and let us know if you know that you are a red, gold, green, or blue, or what you would self-identify as if you've not officially taken the test.
It looks like we have all sorts of colors. And I really like somebody who said I'm a red-green because, yeah, our personalities are very complex. What's even more fun is to think about if you have a best friend or a parent or a partner, to think about what color they are. I know when I was thinking about this, even for my husband, I was like, I don't know. He's kind of everything. And then when he took the test, he was a blue. And so many things came into clear focus for me because then I understood how to approach him and, why he was upset about certain things. But people see us sometimes as a green or a red or a blue, but that's not how we are internally. Sometimes what we need to be successful, sometimes our needs are hidden. And so let me come over here The circle in the Brickman language tells you where your triggers are. Okay, so for this personality profile, we have a green person, but they don't have green triggers. Like a green trigger would be, a green need would be needing to communicate to be your best self, right? A red would be needing to get things done to be your best self. A yellow would be needing that systematic process to be your best self. This person, although they appear as a green to other people and they act as a green most days, they don't need communication to be their best self. What they need is time to think. So once you understand about yourself, oh, I'm a green, I'm a communicator, but if I don't get time to think about decisions or think about possibilities, I'm going to be stressed out and I'm going to be triggered. And once you get triggered, what happens, according to the Brickman assessment, is you have a stress response. And the stress response is indicated with a square, and it is always on top of what you need. Because if we don't get what we need, we double down on what we need, and we throw what I like to call a grown-up temper tantrum. And red temper tantrums, green temper tantrums, yellow and blue temper tantrums from adults are always ugly. And we all do them. We all have them. We all do them. No one is perfect. But recognizing when your colleague or someone or one of your direct reports or your boss or anybody, one of your clients, when you can recognize that they're throwing a grown-up temper tantrum, then you can think, oh, they've been triggered. There's something they need that they're not getting. Let me think about how I can meet that need so that the conflict diffuses. So you can imagine a blue temper tantrum looks like somebody who's very, very offended. Okay, so if you have, if you're annoyed by people who talk too much, and you're annoyed by people who do things without thinking about them first, your annoyance is probably symptomatic of a blue temper tantrum. If you are going against conventional norms and like butting the crowd deliberately and insisting on conflict in your way of thinking, you might be a blue. Okay. And acting up in that way and disengaging because somebody didn't take your opinion, that's a grown-up temper tantrum. And it can look like folded arms in a meeting. It can look like disengaging from a meeting. It can look like, well, they asked me and I told them, and so, oh, well. That's a grown-up temper tantrum. And if you do that, you might have blue needs, and this might be your stress response. And that's important for you to know, especially today as a leader. Okay. A yellow grown-up temper tantrum will look like someone saying, I'm not doing anything further unless this process is followed, this rule is followed, these procedures are followed. And if you don't follow these procedures and bad things happen to you, well, then I'm going to be happy because I told you about them, right? That's a grown-up temper tantrum. Green temper tantrums is manipulative behavior. They'll get really mad when people don't agree with them. They'll try to get them to agree with them. It's like a used car salesman. Like you're trying to convince somebody just to convince somebody. And red temper tantrums are more active and loud. Reds are the slam doors kind of people. And they get very angry, right? Because things aren't done and they need things to get done. And so they might just start doing things and getting busy just for the sake of being busy. Again, we're all grown-ups. We're all people. We have different personalities. People see us differently. We have different needs to be our best self. When they aren't met, we have stress responses, and they're always ugly. So during times like these, leaders need to be aware that not just themselves, but everyone around them are going to have some needs that aren't being met. And they're going to start throwing, temper tantrums, and they're going to start acting up, which means conflict is going to happen. The best way to diffuse conflict as a leader is to understand that people are different and that it usually arises from not getting what you need. And there is a way to diffuse the conflict by just talking about it and acknowledging that we're all different and figuring out what needs are not being met. Personality assessments, again, are a great way to help with that. So we've talked about strategy. Okay, leaders need to be thinking about strategy and driving it through their organization. We've talked about triggers. Leaders certainly need to be thinking about triggers, watching for them, and getting ready to diffuse them. Let me talk for a minute about mindsets. So typically leaders, whether they've articulated it or not, they have a mindset that change is bad, or they have a mindset that change is good. Today, we're in a position where that mindset needs to be pivoted, and pivoted quickly, to change is the only constant. Okay. Leaders also typically have this mindset that they should be authentic. Like, that's a very important leadership quality. But today that needs to be pivoted to leaders need to be authentic, but they need to be poised. Amy Cuddy has done a lot of research here, and she'll be the first to point out, nobody wants to work for a stress reactive leader. Okay. So if you're worried and concerned and you can communicate that responsibly to your team, that's a good thing. If you're worried and concerned and stressed out and you pull back the curtain to be too authentic, you can scare people, and that's not a good environment to work in. For time, we hear often, I'm too busy, I'm too busy, I'm too busy. In fact, when I approach clients and I start talking to people in the companies, if I start hearing I'm too busy, or if I start getting emails that say, "Oh, Dr. Ganem, I can't fit you in until next week at 2:15 on Thursday," I understand that we have a I'm too busy culture. And it's not a good culture. Like right now, especially, this is the time to change it. This is a mindset that has to go if we're going to be successful as leaders. It's never going to be, I'm too busy. It has to be, I'm never too busy. We have to make time for people. We thought we were busy 2 months ago. Well, we're real busy now. So now we feel even more unencumbered to say, I can't do that, I'm too busy. But this is the exact mindset that needs to be changed, because we have to put the relationships back into work to make work work. So the last mindset in terms of how to lead well is to quit worrying about how to lead others. The question really is, how can I lead myself? And I want to spend a couple of minutes talking about that, because if we can figure out how to lead ourselves well, everything will fall into place. So the question becomes, what is your personal what, how, why, and what are your personal values? And I'm going to take a chance here and say that most people listening have no idea. They've never thought about that. And they most certainly have not journaled about it or written it out. You're not too busy, and today is the day. Okay. If you're going to lead others well, you have to lead yourself well. And this is what you need to do to lead yourself well, is to answer these questions. These aren't easy questions to answer. But if you don't know how you fit into your own organization, then you're always going to feel out of balance and everything is going to feel stressful. Fitting yourself squarely within the organizational context gives you that continuity you need to lead strongly and with confidence. So, because we're all muted, I can give you an example, I guess, from my own personal what, how, why. Let me see. So my what, personally, I mean, truly not Lion Leadership, but just Natasha Ganem, the wife, the daughter, the mother of 3 who sits at home in Athens. My what is to help others succeed as my Heavenly Father helps me. That's what I'm doing here on this earth. That is my purpose, is to help others succeed, just as my Heavenly Father has helped me. Now, how do I do that? Well, it looks different every day. um, calling a friend, hugging a child, supporting my husband, doing webinars for colleagues who might need some information that I have to share. And the reason, my why, is because knowing that I help someone succeed or be happy brings me intrinsic joy. So it's a little selfish. I mean, it really makes me happy to help someone get from point A to point B or help them succeed. So it took me, 35 years, 40 years, 41 years now to figure that out. But that is my what, how, and why. My values are hard work, having fun, and learning something new every day. So that's no coincidence. Those are the values of my company. Now, the what and the how and the why of my company is different than my personal what, how, and why. But you can see how they curve and they bend together. They're fluid and they are very interconnected. And that's what gives me the ability to lead myself well and to lead well through my organization, is because there's no tension or conflict between the two. And I'm able to write it out and to journal about it and to remind myself of what I'm doing here every single day, and then to walk into my company and remind them what they're doing here every day. So the power in doing that is what true leadership is about. So I have on this slide friends, family, fitness, faith, finances, like the 5 F's, right? You got to figure out your what, how, and why for all of those 5 things in order to make it work outside of your home. And then the question becomes, okay, let's say I do this. How do I stay accountable? How do I stay aware? And how do I take action on that day in and day out? I'm going to talk about action in just a minute. But becoming aware of the fit between yourself and your organization and holding yourself accountable to your what, how, why, and your values and your purpose. There is one thing you need to do to make that happen, and that is to leverage other people. You have to get other people involved. You have to get other people involved in your leadership, okay? If you don't have other people involved in your leadership and your purpose in life, and you don't have others holding you accountable or helping you become aware of it, you're walking blindly in the dark. So that's the secret, is you've got to talk to other people about this. If you are going to lead well, you need to be talking to someone else about how to lead yourself well, more so than how to lead your company well. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about before we stop for questions is what 7 actions can you take today to be leading well? And to a large extent, this is a recap of what I've said up until this point. Number 1, get your strategy right. If your company doesn't have a what, how, why value statement, make it today. And make sure you communicate that visually to everybody in your organization, to all of your clients, to all your potential employees. Make it so that they understand it. If you don't have, it's like physical fitness. If you don't have a strong core, you're not going to have a strong, nimble body. And this is the core of any organization. It's what defines the organization as a group. Get your strategies right. Communicate them visually. Okay. If you'll recall the examples I gave you from the Instagram posts and the WNA building blocks, that's what I mean by visually. It has to be something that people can see, touch, and feel. Second, to lead well today, you have to understand your triggers. You have to know when you're upset, why you're upset, and what you look like to other people when throwing a grown-up temper tantrum. You also need to be able to understand other people, what makes them upset, and how do they act when they're stressed, so that you can diffuse conflict. That's a key aspect of leadership, is being able to help others get along. So once you understand your triggers, communicate them to other people, because they might not know. If you can't communicate verbally to the people who are around you what stresses you out, you're behind the curve in terms of leadership. Good leaders do this, and they do this on the regular. they're able to have those tough conversations where they say, hey, look, when you did X, Y, and Z, it made me feel, A, B, and C, and that's why I said 1, 2, 3. And having that tough conversation, once you start having those conversations, you sharpen that skill and it becomes natural and it becomes easy, and it's what great leaders are made of. Third, we need to pivot our mindsets with regard to self-leadership. And that involves the time we're taking with people, right? That involves the way we're thinking about change. And that involves, understanding that we can't lead others unless we're leading ourselves. So none of us are leading ourselves for the most part, right? Like, we're the last people we bother with because we're so concerned with our businesses and what's outside of our, the door to our house. But we really have to look internally, and we have to understand what are our own, what, how, why, what are our own values, what is our own purpose, and how does that sync up with our work? Because once you get that secret figured out, a lot of things are going to fall into place. So when I say communicate your mindsets and your ideas about self-leadership in writing, I mean journaling. Journaling is a secret to great leaders. Every great leader out there has a journal, and they're not writing their to-do lists, and they're not writing meeting notes. They're reflecting on themselves. One tip that I give a lot of my executives is, at the end of every day, write down 3 things that you did well and write down 3 things that you wish you had done differently. Because self-reflection in that way, in written form, is the quickest way to improving your leadership skill. Okay, last. This is what I'm going to leave you with before we break up into, I'm right on time. This is what I'm going to leave you with. It's just an idea about taking action. Right now, we're in a position where, paralysis by analysis. Nobody really knows what to do. No one wants to take the wrong action. So I want to give you a visual of a set of dominoes. Let me click to the next slide. We as people can take a very small action that can lead to a huge result. So the question for you guys today is, what is the smallest action you can take right now that will lead to you becoming a fantastic leader in a short amount of time? And, it's hard to sit down and write your personal what, how, why, or your organizational what, how, why. It's hard to figure out how they sync up. That takes a lot of time. So that's not a very small action. But one small action that you could do right now is to email a friend, an accountability partner, for coffee, Zoom lunch, whatever you need to do. Just reach out to someone right now and say, hey, let's get together. I want to talk about something. You don't have to even explain what. But that small action is going to set off a chain reaction. So I'm going to send an email to Maria. I'm going to say, hey, Maria, we haven't seen each other in a long time. Can we get together? I have something I want to talk about. She's going to email me back. We're going to set a time. And then because of that small action, that one email I sent today, soon I'm going to be face-to-face with someone and having a very intentional conversation about self-leadership and about organizational leadership and about strategy and about triggers and about mindsets. And that conversation likely is going to lead to a second appointment and a third appointment and a fourth appointment. And all of a sudden you've built in an accountability partner to your life because you sent an email, right? Another action you can take is you can, go online right now, order yourself a journal. Because you just go online, order yourself a journal, it will turn up at your doorstep. And when you get it, you'll know what you're supposed to do with it. Maybe your small action today is to schedule time on your calendar by yourself, right? And keep that appointment. And know that between 12 and 1 tomorrow, I'm going to sit down with a piece of paper and a pencil, and I'm going to sketch out the what, how, why of my company. I want to come up with ideas. Maybe that's another small action you can take. Set a team meeting right now for the purpose of brainstorming how to drive your strategy through every business process you have. Okay, so right now we're putting on the calendar a 3-hour block for next week. All team members are invited, brainstorming session. You do that today, sure enough, next week is going to come. That's domino number one. Next week's going to come. You're going to meet. There are going to be ideas generated. People are going to be assigned things to do. Then they're going to do all those things through all the different business processes you've identified. And boom, you've knocked over a huge domino, driving your strategy through your entire organization because today you set a team meeting on the calendar. So that's what I would encourage you to do. Take very small actions today so that you can see massive results in a short period of time. I'm going to end by saying thank you for coming. I hope this added value. If you are interested in getting more information about how to lead well or getting into a mastermind group of people who are seeking self-leadership and seeking to be better organizational leaders, just shoot me an email at info@lineleadership.com and we will get you all the information you need, whether it be about personality assessments, management training, executive coaching, anything, any question you have for me that doesn't get answered in this question and answer session, that's where you can reach me. So Natalie, I'm going to turn it back over to you to see if there are any questions out there.
So we do have quite a few questions coming in, which is great. One of our first questions is, how do you practice communicating the what, how, why, and values to your people? I understand that it is something that needs regular attention, but how do you do this without becoming a broken record?
That's a really good question, but I would say that a broken record is a good thing, because unless people are annoyed because you say it all the time, you probably haven't said it enough. It depends on the company. It depends on the context. So starting meetings with the what, how, why is a good thing, right? Having signs up in the office space of the what, how, why is a good thing. Having it on your business card is a good thing. Having it in an email tag is a good thing. There are different places where you can put this verbiage, but you want it repeated, and you want it repeated verbatim. Like, I want to walk into a company and say, hey, what's your mission? And I want anybody in that company to have that mission roll off their tongue. And if it doesn't roll off their tongue well, then it hasn't been communicated enough. It needs to be on t-shirts, right? It needs to be in branding. It needs to be in marketing. It needs to be on job descriptions. It needs to be in the performance review process. So when I say communicate your strategy, communicate your what, how, why, it doesn't always necessarily have to be from the organizational leader saying it to people. It can be a part, if once it's infiltrated to all the business processes, people get it because it's already out there, and then you don't have to say it. In terms of practice saying it, you just have to think about what comes naturally for you. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, that's great.
We just had another really great question come in that says, business has changed and will have long-lasting effects. Would this be a time to edit your mission, values, and principles?
Yeah, that's a great question. And my response to that is yes. So this is waking us up in ways we didn't expect. And it's making us go, oh my gosh, we need to come down to our core, and we have to make it strong now. And if your core, what you currently have written as a mission, vision, values, isn't serving you right now, then yes, it is time to change. You don't want to continue down that path knowing it's not the right path to go down, or continue down that path with a weak core. Now, it does feel awkward right now to be like, oh, there's a global pandemic and we're in the middle of a business crisis. Let's write up a new mission, vision, values. Let's write up a new strategic plan. But on the other hand, everyone understands that. I think a lot of people, if pitched correctly, they would be like, yes, what we have is not serving us. And we don't want to exist during this gap and wrestle during this time without a very clear vision of how we want it to end. The most successful companies today are the people who have envisioned the end chapter of this book and have started to communicate it to their team. So right now, yes, it would be a good time to revisit it, to revamp it, and it's a good way to bring people together too. So let's come together, let's edit it, and then let's move forward with more confidence.
That's great. We have another question that just asks, are there other actions other than journaling that you have found help you in your personal leadership skills, or has journaling been the biggest contributor to your self-awareness or self-leadership?
Journaling has been for me, and talking to other people about it. You know, you have to go through this self-reflection, and that takes time. And so when I stash away time, it's usually like I'm sitting there with a cup of coffee. I've got a couple of minutes in between meetings, and I pull out my journal and I take a look at what was going on recently and what I have on my mind today. Some people don't like to write, and that's okay. What I've recommended for some of my clients is on their way home in the car, I guess on a normal day when you're in the car on the way home, to take a voice memo. You know, just start it up on your phone and record just your thoughts for the day. And sometimes clients will send those to me so that I can continue to coach them well. So if you're a talker, that might be an option. When you're on a walk or you're doing a workout, you can do that. But journaling for me has been really helpful.
That's great. I know we kind of talked about, getting your mindset right and kind of having that clear goal, but do you have any like daily routine? You sort of answered this as far as, the journaling portion of things, but do you have like a daily routine or a morning routine that really gets you in the right mindset to start the day?
So yeah, so I do. And on most days, I'm really good about it and I get it done. And basically what it is I have a piece of paper. It's not fancy, y'all. I mean, you would think from someone telling other people to do this, I would have something more glorious, and maybe I will make something better. But what I have is a piece of paper. It was ripped out of a journal years ago, and it has my what, how, why on it. And it sits on top of my dresser. And so every morning when I walk over to my dresser just to get dressed for the day or to get my earrings or whatever is sitting on my dresser, that piece of paper is sitting there. It's kind of crumpled and ugly right now, but I read it. And it's like, okay, this is what it's about. Another routine is when I feel myself starting to get stressed out, or my feathers are getting ruffled, or the hair on the back of my neck is standing up, and my kids are, Lauren and Natalie, you saw my kids bombard a Zoom meeting yesterday. But when I'm thinking about, this is freaking me out, and this is really stressing me out, and I really want to like lose my temper, I just remind myself like, oh, I'm here to help people succeed. And my purpose is to help people be happy. And so what do I need to do right now to make that happen? And so learning to identify when I was starting to get stressed out and understanding my what, just.
Yeah, that's awesome. We just had another one come in that said, thinking back to other companies I've partnered with, I've noticed a significant difference in the leadership compared to the one that I'm partnered with now. Both are successful in the financials, but empowerment to others who are not in, quote, leadership roles seems to be a very clear differentiator in overall morale through this time. Is that something that you focus on when it comes to the mindset?
That's a good question. So, yeah, different leaders are going to do this differently. They're going to empower different people in their organization to different levels. And that, that leadership comes from the owner, founder, or the person in charge. So the companies who have the strongest cultures that I see are able to strike a really good balance with this. And what this kind of leads me into thinking about is where I see tension is with companies who are struggling with what a lot of scholars call the generational divide. So if you have upper management that consists primarily of baby boomers and Gen Xers, and you have a lot of Gen Zs coming in from college, or, millennials that have been there for a while, Gen Xers and baby boomers are reluctant to empower younger folk in the workforce for a couple of different reasons. And if that company hasn't kind of worked through why generations behave and communicate differently, then, you know, people tend to hold their cards close to their chest and they don't give opportunities to younger staffers as much. And yeah, it can really sink morale. And basically it's one of the number one reasons we see people leave companies is because they can't live out their purpose in that environment. And they're not given the opportunity to contribute all that they have to contribute in that environment. So a lot of times when I'm coaching owner founders, we're talking about the generational divide, and we're talking about, listen, if you want to engage these younger workers, like, you have to let some things go. And so it takes a little bit of training on why the generations act differently in the workplace before they're able to open up and empower their newer workers to make decisions and to try new things.
That's excellent. It looks like we have one last question. It seems like you have a great culture and team at Lion Leadership. How have you specifically been leading your team in our current reality? And how does that look different than, you know, prior to this work from home era?
Well, at first there was, like in every business, there was panic. It was, you know, oh my gosh, we're 1099s. We're going to be the first to go, you know? But as it turns out, our clients are leaning on us more than ever. And it's because we built those relationships, you know, leading up to today. And because we were fulfilling out our mission. So, you know, we're helping people scale and do that safely. And now we've hit this point where that is scary. But just by being that external voice and continuing to say, we are here to help you succeed. We are here to help you succeed. We are here to help you succeed. If you don't succeed, we're not going to succeed. Just continuing to come. I mean, it's even in these times, you just come back to your mission. You come back to your mission. You come back to your mission more and more and more. More so than we have in the past.
That's excellent. Well, I think that wraps up the questions that we had for today. So I just wanted to take an opportunity to say thank you so much for joining us today and, you know, getting this information out to all of our members and team members. It's been very beneficial for all of us. So thank you again for sharing with us today. And for all of you that are here, thank you so much for joining us. We do want to invite you to our next virtual event, which is going to be this coming Tuesday. Steve Cesari has been doing a 4-part series, and this is going to be the last of that series. He's going to be discussing the power of goals. So just make sure you don't miss out on that, and make sure you don't miss out on any of our other upcoming virtual events, other valuable resources, or our Trivia Thursday. You can always stay connected by signing up on our website to receive our weekly emails, or follow us on Instagram or LinkedIn. So thank you again, Dr. Ganem. We really appreciate all of this valuable information. And we hope that everyone has a wonderful day and a great rest of their week. Thank you.